Welcome viewers once again to this NPTEL course on education leadership. So, in the last class we have discussed about the professional development, 21st century pedagogy, what it should be, how the educators should facilitate the teaching learning process, how the learners to be more independent, self-learner, etc. So, to recapitulate the whole thing, now we can summarize that effective professional development program is linked to student learning outcomes. So, here in every profession and exclusively in teaching also, we have to focus on students learning outcomes, like in other professions, like in industry and organizations, they are also focusing on the customers and their stakeholders. Similarly, in our profession, teaching profession, primarily our learners students are our stakeholders, primary stakeholders. So, and their learning outcomes, their performances are our focused. So, every profession, every professional should try to be effective, not only efficient, capable, but also effective. So, in ensuring that students learning outcomes. So, it is directly linked to students learning outcome. It is job embedded, like we are trying to achieve that capabilities and efficiency and ensure effectiveness in the context of our job itself, like on the job, in the teaching learning situation, in the workplace, in the educational institutions itself. Hence, it is job embedded. Third is ongoing and sustained with follow up. So, the professional development programs is career oriented programs, is a continuous learning program. It is ongoing, it is lifelong, it is a continuous cycle, and it is in order to make it sustainable. So, we have to follow it up regularly again and again. So, we have to make it ongoing, continuous, sustainable with a regular follow up and practice. Then incorporates authentic active learning experiences. So, effective professional development is very much realistic oriented, in the sense that it takes into account the ground reality and how to solve the problems, how to overcome the impediments, etc. So, hence it incorporates the authentic, realistic, relevant, reality oriented problems, realistic problems, active learning experiences. That is the when the students are engaged in the learning situations, they must think actively, they must try to solve the problems actively, they must be very realistic, they must be deeply rooted in the reality. So, active learning experiences is another component of professional development. Include the subject matter content, definitely in whichever domain, whichever subject knowledge discipline we are working, we have to have the mastery, acquire the mastery in that subject matter content. Encourage the reflection on pedagogy, content and belief. We have to encourage the not only have the mastery over the content, etc., but we have to be very reflective and innovative in our pedagogy, in our practices, like whatever, in whichever way we teach, whatever new things we introduce in our classroom situation, etc., we have to be very reflective every moment. We should be reflective of our own actions, teaching behavior, actions, students performances, interactions in the classroom, outside the classroom. So, it encourages the reflection on pedagogy, whichever pedagogy we adopt for our students in different learning situations. And again, we have to be reflective of the content and how the content should be taught, in which context it should be taught, how the students are learning, what is the degree of their understanding, what is the degree level of their absorption of the content. So, again we have to reflect on our own beliefs, because we have to be non-judgmental. We cannot have we cannot judge the situations of the content, the students everywhere. So, we have to be non-judgmental. So, we have to reflect, rethink about our own beliefs also. Incorporates the supports for the teachers. So, professional developments, it incorporates the development of the teachers. That means all the teachers, all the staff, our colleagues, our freshers, our junior teachers. So, all of them, they should be equally given training and to update their knowledge, skills, competencies and capabilities, and it also measures the impact on students' achievements. So, through professional development, not only we try to be effective, but it must have significant impact on the students' achievement, their performance, their behavior, etc. So, ultimately the effective professional development leads to performance, impact on whom? Impact on all the stakeholders, and who are the major stakeholders? Students' achievement, their behavior, their performance, their learning gain, their ability, their attitude. So, it must have significant impact. So, now we will move on to the next step, that is the reflective practice. The educational leader as a reflective practitioner. So, as we have already discussed that for the professional development, reflective thinking, reflective practice, the necessary are the mandatory components. So, reflective practice is that thinking about teaching and always improving it in an innovative way. So, we cannot be very complacent that yes, I have taught that lesson in a very marvelous way, and the students are looking at me, and they are very highly motivated, and they have totally understood the subject, and definitely they are going to excel in the exam. So, we cannot be very much complacent with this, that whatever we have delivered is nice, it is outstanding. So, every moment, even though we have taught well, even though we have delivered well, so but again the same moment, the next moment we have to think how to make it better, how to improve it day by day. So, reflective practice, it encourages the teachers to think about the all possible innovative ways to improve, qualitatively improve his teaching and practices day by day with the increasing day. With every the more and more experience you become, we cannot say that yes, he is experienced, he can deliver it well. No, even though we are experienced, even though you are senior teachers, yes, but even then we have to prepare, we have to go through the new learning material, etc., because our intention is to how to again make it better next day. Exploring more critically the underlying assumptions in teaching practices and the professional knowledge. Again, not only we are preparing for the content, not only we are having the mastery over the content, but at the same time we are also critically evaluating that content, whether the content I am using, whatever the content I have collected from this source or that source is actually relevant, is contextual, it is useful, it is actually ethical, valuable. So, we have to critically evaluate, and what are the basic assumptions of that topic, of that course, of that curriculum, of that lesson. So, we have to again critically evaluate the assumptions, basic assumptions of those lessons and the topic, because when we are setting the instructional objectives, we have to very thorough about. So, we have to very thorough about the underlying assumptions. Again underlying assumptions of teaching that subject to the students. Why? So, we have to ask many questions to ourselves. Why I am teaching? What? How it can be taught? What are its relevance? How it is going to help them in real life? Then what are its implications? How it can be linked with other disciplines? How it can have the interdisciplinary impact? So, all these questions we have to ask ourselves, like underlying assumptions in teaching practices, and again also to add the professional knowledge. So, when we are delivering the lecture, when we are practicing our teaching, where we are enabling the learners to to learn, to have mastery over the content, to apply it, to think in a higher level, like to critically evaluate it, creatively design something new, etc. So, all the time we explore the new dimensions of that content, new dimensions of that pedagogy, we need new dimensions of that domain. So, by critically asking many questions to ourselves. So, it also strengthens the professional knowledge. So, in this context, Dewey says that how we think, he has given a 5-stage model of reflective thinking, how we think. So, it has different stages, and he has given a 5-stage model. So, primarily the reflection can be done in two ways. One is the reflection in action, reflection on action. So, reflective action stems from the need to solve the problems and involves the active, persistent and careful consideration of any form of knowledge. So, when we start, we begin to reflect upon when we face any problem. Actually it begins from that stage only. If you are if you are used to, if we are adaptable to the prescribed kind of pattern, like it has been given the subject, content, course, curriculum, everything has been designed, has been prescribed by our teachers, and now we are supposed to learn it. In that spoon feeding kind of learning, we don't ask critical questions, but the moment we face any kind of problem, then we start reflective thinking. So, the reflective action actually begins with a particular problem. When we fail to solve that problem, then the critical thinking or reflective thinking starts, and it involves active. So, the moment we reflect upon it, we become very active, we become very persistent, we become deeply engaged, deeply motivated, deeply in order to sustain our motivation and attention, we keep on carry on our activity to solve that problem, and careful consideration of any form of knowledge. So, here we try to collect the different resources of learning, that means from where, that means our effort is from where we can get some clues, some ideas, some strategies to solve this problem. So, so automatically the reflective action, it makes the individual more active. So, the 5-step, let us discuss about the 5-step model of Dewey. So, first is that suggesting solution. The moment we face the problem, then we start we start seeking the solutions. Solutions. What could be the possible solution, possible strategies for the solving the problem. Then so on the basis of those suggestions, those solutions, those strategies, then we pose different questions. How different questions to solve the problem. So, if we will do in this way, what will be the outcome? What will be the result? How we can get it? How the less time will be taken? How the more profit can be gained, how this cost effectiveness can be obtained, etc. So, we pose the questions, then again then we try to experiment on each and every hypothesis. Then if suppose we fail in the first one, then we try second one, and then suppose we have passed, we have been successful in first one, again we are trying to say for the second one, then third one, because again at the end we can evaluate which is the most effective one. So, reasoning, then again testing, that is experimenting, verifying. So, that this is the usual process of problem solving, not only in teaching learning situation, but any kind of real life problem also, any kind of social problem, any kind of financial problem, any kind of economic emotional problem. So, if it is a problem, if we think it is a problem, then we start thinking actively. So, when we start thinking actively, then we reflect upon it, then we start reflective thinking, then we try to explore the different sources of information, knowledge, etc., etc. And from that, from there onwards, then we formulate different strategies, hypotheses, try to experiment it, etc., etc. The highest level of reflection leads to. Now, the individual is, suppose the individual is highly engaged in reflective thinking. You give him any kind of task, you give him any kind of task, be it academic, non-academic, or work related, whatever. So, his habits, so automatically becomes a habit. So, he is highly engaged in active thinking, he is highly engaged in reflective thinking. So, highest level of reflection leads to what? The moral dimension of reflective action, that is worthwhileness. That means, whatever task you assign to them, they evaluate, ultimately being reflective, ultimately they evaluate its value, they evaluate its position, they evaluate its learning. So, the more one moral dimension automatically attached to the learning experience of the topic, like what is the utility, what is the worthwhileness of this subject, this content, this lesson, this topic, this work. So, a moral dimension automatically comes in. So, then teachers as the agents of transformations in the education system. So, we believe that the teachers has the major responsibility of bringing change, transformation, not only within among our students, not only in our educational institution, but the society at large. So, that is why it is our moral responsibility, you can say, like to evaluate a particular lesson, topic, content, whatever we are delivering, like in terms of its values, in terms of its quality, in terms of its moral implications, in terms of its worthwhileness, utility. So, ultimately it is the teacher's job and responsibility to evaluate the content and to weigh its more social implications, moral implications for the benefits of the society. Then to provoke the critical thinking for reflective practice. So, we being the teacher, we are not just required to reflect upon our own practice and thinking, but we have to encourage the same among our students, among our learners. So, we have to provoke. So, by posing different questions, by giving them different kinds of assignments, by encouraging them to engage, to be engaged in the dialogue, in the conversation, to engage in them in different kinds of experiential learning, in the discourse, etc. So, to promote, to instigate, to stimulate them for critical thinking. So, and critical thinking and reflective practices. So, it is not just enough for us to practice it for our professional development, but simultaneously we have to nurture, inculcate this kind of practices among our students as well. Now, Brookfield has given the 4 perspectives of this. So, when we are practicing reflective thinking, reflective thinking on our pedagogy, on our course content and curriculum, etc., we have usually and we encounter 4 kinds of situations, because teaching and learning are very much contextual. First thing is that first perspective is that being the practitioner. So, suppose I or you are you as the beginning teacher, you are a fresh teacher, now got the fresh appointment in a college, in a city. So, you as an practitioner. So, you have to be reflective, and you have to be critical about the content, critical about the situation, context, methodology, everything. So, you as a practitioner. So, we start reflective practices as a practitioner first, that is we as the beginning teacher. Second is that we also reflect upon our own practices for whom? For our major stakeholders, that is the students. So, the learners, who are our students, whether they are class 5 children, they are undergraduate students, they are engineering students, they are science students or psychology students. Who are the students? Who are our stakeholders, are the audience, and what is their level of understanding, what are their expectations, what are their needs, what are their future prospects, everything. So, the learners is another perspective. Then the colleagues, again in which context. So, when you are joining as a college teacher, definitely you have the colleagues from other subjects, etc. So, your colleagues, your colleagues, your office staffs, other staffs. So, they are your other fellow teachers as well as your mentor, your senior, your mentor. So, they are also, it is also another dimension, it is another perspective of reflective practices in the workplace. Then again the source of information is that what the established theory says about the reflective practice. If I am a sociology teacher, if I have a science teacher, biology teachers or physics teacher, what the theory says, that what is the best method of teaching this subject or that subject's content or that content. So, what the theory says, what the theory, because theories have been developed on the basis of empirical studies findings. So, it must have some kind of truthfulness, some kinds of validity, etc., realistic perspective. So, we have to take into account. So, for reflective practice, again we have to take into account these 4 practices. I as the beginning teacher, beginning practitioner. Second, who are my stakeholders, the learners are the major stakeholders. Third, who are my colleagues, like what my colleagues are suggesting me, how they are doing it, how they are teaching, how they are practicing it. I must seek their suggestion, their feedback in this context. Peer reviewing is a process. What is the peer reviewing? There is the colleagues also, they also evaluate your performance, they also give the feedback. So, they are also again a significant component, and what the established theory, domain theory says about this. So, on this 4 perspective, again asking the questions about the practical, technical, critical issues of teaching. So, here as we have already discussed, from all these 4 perspectives we can ask many questions. Practical questions related to the subjects, practical questions related to the transaction of curriculum, technical questions that may how to conduct the experiments in the lab, or how to use ICT tools, etc. And what are the other critical issues in the teaching, in the context, in the classroom management, in the administration, in the resources, in the lab. So, we have to ask many questions like what is the object, in terms of what, how, why, when, all kinds of questions. So, what if suppose we have got all the answers right now, then what next? Then we have to all the time ask what next, then what would be the future, what would be the future plan, what would be the next topic, what would be the next proposal, etc. Because reflective, again various forms of action research, professional inquiry and self study, again various forms. Action research helps us greatly in this regard, in the sense that suppose while teaching a particular new subject, suppose foreign language, teaching Chinese language or Japanese language in the classroom. So, when while teaching this subject, this language subject to the audience, to the learners who are not familiar with this kind of knowledge, and they are the first generation learners in learning this foreign language, what kind of particular problems I am facing? Okay. So, how can I help it? So this some of the instances, like in some cases some peculiar problems which we may not have thought of it prior to the teaching. So, some of the peculiar critical questions that emerge from the situation. Actually, we have never thought of these questions to be asked or problems to be faced, but now it has emerged out of the situation. So, for solving those kind of problems, for getting the answers to those kind of questions, so immediately we can take up in action research. So, here action research helps us in getting the solution or instant solution for a problem. So, if we face this kind of critical questions, very emerging questions, unpredictable questions, etc., then we can very quickly engage ourselves or design an action plan of the action research to conduct it, to carry on it, and so that we can instantly get some kind of solution, which again we can practice it, we can try it out in our classroom situation to solve that problem. So, various forms of action. So, action research is very popular in education field. So, various forms of action research, because it gives us an instant feedback, instant solution to solve our problem, which we can immediately we introduce and apply without waiting for others to to give us a green signal. So, various forms of action research. Professional inquiry. We can ask the questions to different professional organizations to seek the answers, etc. Professional inquiry and self study. We ourselves can also explore it. We can explore the possible solution by going through the literature, going through the various kinds of open source of material. Then research to be the tools for the critical thinking. Hence, ultimately it comes to the research. So, research is a very potential tool, tool of critical thinking. Action research we do for getting the immediate solution for a temporary problem, but from there onwards we can also carry forward our longitudinal research or cross sectional research. So, research begins the critical thinking, or you can say research is such a weapon, such a potential tool to help us in critical thinking and reflective practice. So, research is an inseparable, it is a significant, rather dominant, prominent component of the teaching practice in the education field. So, again, so this reflective practice not only helps us in strengthening our research input, to again to think of different questions, research problems, identifying research problems, also to expose ourselves to get the opportunity to explore the new innovative practices, new pedagogy, better learning techniques, tools for assessment, and a new pedagogy, and many immense resources, tools and techniques for reflective practices and the new learning experiences. Now, there are different types of reflections, as we have already discussed, like reflection in action and reflection on action. Reflection in action is that it is spontaneous, when you are engaged in teaching practice, when you are engaged in learning, when you are engaged in performing, when you are engaged in presenting and delivering. So, there spontaneously it comes to your mind, it comes to your it strikes you that, oh, I should do it in this way, that way. So, spontaneous and instantaneous reflections, when you are actually performing, engaged in that kind of act. So, you are spontaneously taking a decision to reflect upon, and that happens during a problem solving action or the teaching experience, while you are engaged in the active teaching or you are engaged actively in any kind of problem solving situation. So, instantly what comes to your mind, you experiment, you spontaneously, you practice, you deliver it, you react in that way. So, that is instantaneous reflection, that is reflection in action, when you are engaged in action. Then another is the reflection on action, that is the post hoc analysis. Post hoc analysis, that is the retrospective analysis of what you have already done. I have already taken the class. Now, when I go back and reflect upon the whole situation again, once again, or suppose maybe that sometimes I go through the video recording once again, or just think about the whole class, how it has happened, what are the questions asked by the students, and how whatever the answers they have given to my questions, etc. When I reflect upon all these things, that is the post hoc analysis, retrospective analysis, that is called the reflection on action. That is the retrospectively you are analyzing it. So, in this context, for reflective practice, there are also other significant components are there, like for example, if you want to enhance our reflective practice and learning experience, teaching experience, we have to engage ourselves in different kinds of learning, modes of learning. One such learning is the experiential learning theory. David Cole says that he has actually propagated, he has formulated his own theory, that is known as the experiential learning theory, Cole's experiential learning theory, and on the basis of that he has developed a model of learning styles also, model of learning styles. So, he says that people learn from their experience, and and the way this happens in through, like all of us, we interpret this the same learning situation, even though we have been taught by the same teacher and we have learned the same content, and we are of the same age group, etc. Even then we interpret it in our own way, isn't it? So, every learning experience is very peculiar to every individual learner. So, people learn from their experience and the way it happens. So, as we interpret our own learning experience in different way, in an individualistic way, similarly we also learn from our own experiences, because when we describe a particular situation, interpret a particular situation, perceive a particular situation, here not only we are learning passively, but we are actively thinking about it. We are also we are recollecting, recapitulating our past learning experiences, whether it is related to this topic, this content or this situation or not. We try to recapitulate and blend it. So we go back to our past learning experiences, then again we try to recollect, again we listen to something and we actively think about something, we critically evaluate. So, on the basis, it is a kind of total combination of the whole experiences that we have collected from different sources within the classroom, outside the classroom, real life experiences, then the from the peer group experiences. So, people learn from their experience. We also learn, and it helps us in modifying our knowledge, constructing and reconstructing our knowledge, and a reflection on the things we do again. So, how this experiential learning takes place, he has narrated, like reflection on the things we do. So, we primarily collect the information from a concrete experience we encounter from the reality. So, the reflection begins with the concrete experience, whatever we have perceived from the environment through our sensory organ. So, it begins with concrete experience. Second comes the experimentation. So, when we have experienced something, some concrete experiences are with us, then we try to experiment it, try to analyze it in terms of action. So, we try to apply it in a similar situation. Going further, for further experience, we try to apply its its effectiveness, whether it is useful or not, whether it is really going to help me or not. So, again while trying it out in different situation, again we reflect upon it. So, we observe it, we analyze it, we experiment on it, so and so on and so on. So, reflection begins with the concrete experience, whatever we receive from the environment. Again we start experimenting on it by actively doing something. So, we are engaged in the actions, then again we observe it, we analyze it, then after analysis again we formulate some ideas or hypothesis, etc. Then again when we formulate some ideas and hypothesis, again we try to test it. So, it is an ongoing process. So, this is like, for example, this is learning cycle, experiential learning cycle given by Cole. First, we begin with the concrete experience from the environment, yes, then we move on to the reflective learning, like start thinking about its applications, its usefulness, then we experiment on it, we observe it, we reflect upon it, etc., and experiment on it. Then again after experimentation we find it out to be yes useful, etc., then we reuse it, and in this process suppose we get more experience and get some more feedback, then again we modify it. So, it is a continuous learning cycle, that is from experience to reflective learning, again experimentation, again make it practice, then again from the new experience we go on in this way. So, another is the constructive learning theory. Constructivism again says that the learners are not the passive recipients of whatever we are delivering, but yes, they are active thinkers, they are active constructors of learning. Like even though we listen to the content, even though we go through the content, even though we read the books, etc., but the learners, they interpret it in their own way, they construct and reconstruct their own learning experiences in different way. So knowledge is created rather than received. In 21st century, knowledge is created, it is not just received passively, but again when the learner is actively engaged in the knowledge acquisition process, he also critically analyze it, evaluate it, and sometimes unlearn something, drop something ideas, and critically, after critical evaluation, he also modify the whole thing and redesign it again. So he add it, so he reconstruct his own knowledge. So it is medicated by the discourse rather than transferred by the teaching. So it is not the learning here, the knowledge is being constructed not by listening to the talks or delivering the lectures, but through the mediated discourse, dialogue, transactions, interactions, interaction in the social context, interaction in the different kind of learning situations. So and it is explored and transferred rather than remembered as a uniform set of positive ideas. So so whatever knowledge we acquire, this learner acquires, they explore it, discover it, innovate it in different dimensions. So uncover its other components. So they construct, reconstruct, modify, and create further knowledge, new knowledge. So this is the constructivism learning theory. So again, so these are some of the techniques, you can say strategies of reflective practices. Similarly, another thing is the self awareness. Self awareness, the Johari window model. Now I will discuss it in the next class. Now thank you very much.